There are moments in life when we look into someone's eyes, a friend, a partner, even a family member, and feel something chilling. Not hate, not anger, but absence. That it's as if behind the words, behind the smile, there's nothing. You try to connect, to feel, to reach, but it's like trying to embrace smoke. Have you ever felt that unsettling silence in the presence of someone who should be close to you? A father who never really saw you, a sibling who drains your energy, a partner whose love feels scripted. Carl Jung spoke of people disconnected from their soul, not in a religious sense, but in a psychological one. People who have silenced the inner voice, buried their conscience, and armored themselves so deeply that what's left is only a mask. That we live in a time where we're told to be tolerant, to understand everyone. But what if someone in your own family is a soulless being, not a monster, but someone whose humanity has been slowly replaced by manipulation, emptiness, and denial? This is not about judging. It's about protecting your own soul from being devoured by someone who has long lost theirs. Here are 9 signs of a soulless person and how to recognize them even when they were the face of someone you love. They may say the right things. "I'm so sorry you're going through this. Let me know if you need anything." But something is off. You don't feel understood. You don't feel seen. That's because empathy, real empathy, is not in the words. It's in the presence. It's in the eyes that soften when you speak. In the silence that says, "I'm here with you." Soulless people mimic empathy, but they don't feel it. They've learned the performance, but the inner compass that makes someone care is broken or simply absent. That you'll notice it when you're vulnerable, when you're sick, heartbroken, or lost. Instead of comfort, they offer solutions. Instead of staying with your pain, they deflect it. Why? Because your pain reminds them of what they've buried, their own humanity. And they can't face that, so they look away. Or worse, they make your suffering about them. Pay attention to how people respond when you're at your weakest. That's when the mask slips. That's when you see who truly has a soul and who only wears one. At first, they captivate you. They're witty, attentive, magnetic. In public, everyone seems to adore them. They're the ones who remember your birthday, crack the perfect joke, and charm your friends. But watch what happens when the spotlight turns off. When you call at night, needing someone to talk to, they're too busy. When you're grieving, they disappear. When you need help moving, when you're overwhelmed with life, when your world is falling apart, suddenly, they're unavailable. Their charm is not connection. It's performance. Soulless people are experts in social seduction. They know how to wear masks that gain approval, admiration, even devotion. But their charm is conditional, designed to maintain an image, not to build intimacy. They love being liked. But they cannot love, because love is not glamorous. Love is staying with someone through the mess. It's showing up when it's inconvenient. It's giving without needing recognition. When you're no longer useful, entertaining, or flattering to them, the warmth disappears. The eyes go cold. You become invisible. They may even blame you for needing too much, as if your humanity is a burden. Carl Jung once said, "You meet your destiny on the road you take to avoid it." The soulless avoid true connection because it threatens the false self they've spent years creating. Behind their charisma lies a profound emptiness. And when you no longer feed their illusion, they move on, searching for another audience, another admirer, another stage. Remember this: consistency reveals character. Charm may win attention, but it's what someone does when no one is watching that tells you if they truly have a soul. With them, nothing is ever just simple. Every conversation, every interaction, every disagreement becomes a subtle tug of war, but they're not interested in understanding you. They're interested in winning. You might notice how they constantly interrupt, dismiss your feelings, or twist your words until you're doubting your own reality. They don't argue to reach clarity. They argue to dominate, to assert control, to make sure they always have the upper hand. This isn't about healthy disagreement. It's about feeding an ego that is so fragile, it must crush anything that feels like opposition. In the soulless person, the ego has taken over completely. Jung called this the inflation of the persona. When the mask we show to the world becomes so overgrown, it devours the true self beneath it. These people don't negotiate. They manipulate. They don't ask for help. They guilt you into giving. They frame every situation in ways that benefit them. And if you push back, they'll say you're too sensitive or overreacting. It's not a conversation. It's a psychological chess match you never agreed to play. And if you ever win, even just once, they won't forget it. Because to them, it's not about connection. It's about control. What makes this dynamic especially dangerous is that it often unfolds slowly. You start by giving in to keep the peace. Then, you begin to silence your needs. Eventually, you're walking on eggshells, not even realizing how much of yourself you've surrendered. To be close to a soulless person is to live in a war zone without bullets, where the weapon is always invisibly aimed at your sense of self. That here's the truth. Real relationships are not power struggles. They're safe places where both can grow, where no one has to shrink for the other to shine. Pay attention to how they behave when you disagree, when you succeed, or when you say no. Do they respect your autonomy, or do they see your boundaries as a threat? The soul cannot thrive in an environment ruled by power. It needs mutuality, vulnerability, and truth. Where there is domination, the soul begins to die. First yours, then theirs. You've had the same conversation 10 times. You've explained how their words hurt, how their actions left a scar. Each time, they nod, maybe even apologize, and yet, nothing changes. This isn't forgetfulness. This is refusal. A refusal to look inward. A refusal to grow. The soulless person walks through life without mirrors. They avoid self-reflection because it threatens the fragile image they've constructed. To admit a mistake would mean facing their flaws, and they can't afford to do that. Because their identity is not rooted in truth, but in image. You'll notice this pattern. They shift blame. They rationalize cruelty. They repeat harmful behaviors and act as if it's the first time. Jung believed that real transformation begins when we confront our shadow, the hidden, uncomfortable parts of ourselves. But those who have disconnected from the soul reject the shadow completely. Instead of growth, they opt for defense. Instead of humility, they choose pride. Their lives become a cycle of destruction, failed relationships, broken trust, missed opportunities, all explained away by excuses, never integrated into wisdom. When a person still has a soul, you see remorse in their eyes, not just for what they did, but for the pain it caused others. With the soulless, you see something else: deflection, coldness, and a strange sense that the pain they cause never truly touches them. You'll start to feel crazy. You'll wonder if it's your fault. Because how can someone ignore so many chances to grow? The answer is, they've chosen the path of disconnection. They may claim they want change, but change requires humility. It requires a descent into truth, something they've spent a lifetime avoiding. Don't measure someone by their apologies. Measure them by what they do after. A soul grows from pain. A soulless person repeats it until there's no one left to hurt but themselves. You try to talk about what really matters: your fears, your longings, the ache of getting older, the questions that keep you awake at night. But with them, everything stays shallow. They change the subject. They joke it away. Or worse, they look at you like you're being dramatic. You mention a dream that disturbed you, and they roll their eyes. You bring up something you read by Jung or a painful childhood memory, and they go silent, uncomfortable, uninterested. Why? Because depth requires presence, and presence requires a soul. Soulless people live on the surface, not because they're simple, but because the depths are terrifying to them. In those depths live the truths they've avoided their whole lives: old wounds, unhealed shame, a sense of meaninglessness they can't afford to feel. Jung often wrote about the necessity of descending into the unconscious, facing what we've hidden to find wholeness. But that descent requires courage, and the soulless do not seek courage. They seek distraction. They fill their days with noise, gossip, consumption, criticism. They chase novelty, not insight. They'd rather scroll than reflect. They speak with sarcasm, but never with vulnerability. When you speak from the heart, they seem bored. When you speak with depth, they seem threatened. And over time, you begin to censor yourself. You stop sharing the things that matter. You shrink your soul to fit their comfort zone. But here's the truth: there is no real intimacy without depth. And there is no true human connection without the willingness to be uncomfortable. The soul longs for conversations that heal, for silences that say more than words, for encounters that change us. With a soulless person, all of that is lost. Their contempt for depth is not just a personality trait. It's a symptom of a disconnection so deep that they've forgotten what it means to be truly alive. Don't apologize for being deep. Don't dull your essence for someone afraid of their own. Because the moment you stop honoring your depths, you begin to lose your soul, too. You tell them they hurt you. You explain, calmly, clearly, how their words or actions crossed a line. And they say, I didn't mean it. Or worse, you're overreacting. What you won't hear is this: I'm sorry. I see how I hurt you. I want to do better. Because guilt, real guilt, is the soul's response to having caused harm. It's the sacred ache that says, this isn't who I want to be. But the soulless person doesn't feel this ache. They feel inconvenience. They feel annoyance at being confronted. They feel threatened, not by what they did, but by being exposed. You may see them apologize, yes. But it's not for you. It's to end the conversation, to reset the image, to appear kind without doing the work of becoming kind. There's no reflection, no integration, no sense of, I need to make this right. And over time, this erodes you, because when there is no real guilt, there is no real change. You find yourself stuck in the same loops, the same apologies, the same injuries, the same disappointment. Jung taught that guilt can be a pathway to the soul, a sign that we are still in touch with our moral compass, that we are still reachable. But the soulless person has turned off that compass. They've armored themselves against remorse, against discomfort, against the very emotions that make us human. They might cry when caught, not from sorrow, but from shame. Not for what they did, but because their mask cracked that you'll notice. That they're not moved by the pain they cause. They're moved by the loss of control. So they deny. They minimize. And if you insist, they flip the script. Suddenly, you're the one to blame. You're too emotional, too sensitive, too much that it's not just painful. It's gaslighting. And if you're not careful, it'll make you doubt your own soul. But guilt, true guilt, is a sign of life. And where there is no guilt, there is no love. Don't stay where you have to beg someone to care. Don't trust apologies that come without change. Don't confuse charm for conscience. That a soulless person can imitate sorrow, but they cannot feel the sacred weight of having caused pain. And without that, they remain locked in themselves, forever strangers to the healing power of true remorse. They might say, you're everything to me. They might flood you with attention, affection, even obsession, especially in the beginning, but it doesn't last, because beneath the gestures, beneath the intensity, there's no true connection. Only performance. Only hunger. Soulless people can mimic intimacy, but they cannot sustain it. You'll notice how quickly they pull away when things get real. When you open up, when you show your flaws, when you need something deeper than excitement, suddenly they're cold, distant, or worse, they punish you for being vulnerable. True bonding requires mutual risk. It means saying, here I am, in all my humanness. Will you meet me here? But the soulless person doesn't want to meet you. They want to use you, to escape their own void through your warmth, your presence. Your soul.it feels like a connection at first, but slowly you realize it's one-sided. You're the one holding space. You're the one listening. You're the one adapting, softening, staying, and they drift in and out. They ghost. They rage. They withdraw. Their presence is unpredictable. Their affection is conditional. Because for them, relationships aren't about truth. They're about utility. Carl Jung wrote that the soul thrives in encounters where the masks fall, where ego surrenders to something greater. But that surrender never comes from the soulless. They fear intimacy, because intimacy reveals the self, and there's so little self left inside them to reveal. They've abandoned their own essence long ago. So they latch onto yours. That's why, after being with them, you feel drained, confused, less alive. You might even question your own worth. Why can't I make them love me? Why do I feel invisible when I'm right next to them? But it's not about you. It's about their incapacity. A soulless person cannot love you, not because you're unlovable, but because they've lost the part of themselves that could ever truly love. Real connection is a dance of presence, humility, and truth. When only one partner shows up, there is no dance. Don't confuse attachment with intimacy. Don't confuse intensity with authenticity. A soul bond grows slowly, gently. A soulless bond burns fast and leaves you in ashes. Say something honest. Say something that challenges their narrative, something that reveals a truth they've been hiding from. Even gently, watch how fast the mood changes. Suddenly, you're not just wrong, you're dangerous. You're against them. You're judgmental. You're toxic. Because for the soulless, confrontation is not an invitation to grow. It's a threat to eliminate. Carl Jung warned that what we fail to face in ourselves, we project onto others. And soulless people are masters of projection. They can't tolerate the mirror, so they shatter it by turning on you. You point out a harmful behavior, they call you controlling. You name a boundary, they accuse you of abandonment. You ask for honesty, they accuse you of being the problem. They don't self-reflect. They retaliate. This is not a misunderstanding. This is a defense mechanism, one they've perfected over years. They have to destroy what confronts them, because it threatens the false self they've built. And if the lie falls, the emptiness underneath becomes unbearable. So, instead of sitting with the discomfort of truth, they go on the attack. They mock. They twist the narrative. They pull others into their version of events. They will do anything to keep the illusion intact that you'll often find yourself cast as the villain, the cold one, the unstable one, the ungrateful one. Not because it's true, but because the truth exposes them. And they will protect their illusion more fiercely than any relationship they claim to care about. This pattern leaves deep wounds. You question your memory. You doubt your instincts. You begin to fear speaking up because every truth becomes a battlefield. But here's what you must remember. The person who attacks you for speaking the truth is showing you they value control over connection. Your honesty is not the enemy. Your clarity is not cruelty. Your growth is not betrayal. A soulless person cannot grow because they've made their identity out of avoidance. And anything that asks them to wake up feels like a threat. Let it be. You're not here to save someone who's sworn to stay asleep. You're here to protect your light, even if it means walking away from someone who refuses to see theirs. You spend time with them, a dinner, a phone call, a holiday gathering, and afterward, you feel hollow, not because of what was said, but because of what was missing. No warmth, no curiosity, no soul meeting soul, just a sense that your energy was extracted, not exchanged. Being with a soulless person is like standing under artificial light for too long. You don't notice the drain immediately, but soon your body tenses, your heart feels tight, and your spirit whispers, leave. They may not yell, they may not abuse, but their presence alone slowly exhausts you. Why? Because everything is one-sided. You give, they take. You listen, they monologue. You share, they deflect. You show up, they disappear emotionally. This is energetic starvation. Not loud, but constant. Not violent, but depleting. Jung taught that the soul feeds on meaning, on authenticity, on mutual presence. But in these relationships, you're the only one offering soul. They consume your attention, your empathy, your light, and give back nothing but performance. They don't ask, how are you really? They don't notice when you're tired. They don't hold space for your joy or sorrow. And the silence they leave behind isn't peace. It's absence. Over time, you begin to dread their presence. Your body resists before your mind can explain. You cancel plans. You go numb. You forget what it feels like to be nourished because they've trained you to expect nothing. This is not normal. This is not love. This is what happens when you share space with someone who has lost all connection to their own soul, and thus cannot meet yours. That it's not that they mean harm. It's that they live in spiritual starvation. And starvation turns people into takers. The most dangerous thing? You may start to believe this is all you deserve. You don't. You deserve relationships that fill you, not drain you. Conversations that awaken you, not silence you. Presence that nourishes your soul, not empties. If being with someone always leaves you feeling less, trust that. The soul always knows what the mind tries to rationalize. It's one thing to recognize a soulless person out in the world. It's another to realize they're in your family. A parent, a sibling, a child, a partner, someone you love or tried to love, but who never truly met you there. The grief is complex because it's not just about what happened. It's about what never did. No shared truth. No mutual recognition. No safe, sacred space where souls connect. You try to fix it, to explain, to hold space, to forgive, but nothing reached them. because you were offering something they no longer carry within themselves: humanity, conscience, soul. That's so. What now? Jung didn't offer easy answers, but he offered a path: individuation, the journey of becoming whole, even when those around you choose to stay fragmented. Here are a few hard-won truths. Stop hoping for someone else's transformation. That hope is sacred, but when it becomes obsession, it costs you your own life. Protect your energy. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are self-respect, especially when dealing with someone who confuses love with control. Let go of the fantasy. Mourn who you wish they could be. Then accept who they actually are. Speak your truth, even if they never hear it. Not for them, for you. To unbury your voice from years of silence. Reclaim your soul. The part of you that kept shrinking to stay connected. The part of you that thought, if I just love enough, maybe they'll change. No more. Some people do not want to be reached. Not because they're evil, but because they made a choice long ago to live behind a mask. You can love someone and still walk away. You can forgive them and still keep your distance. You can understand their wounds and still protect yourself from being wounded again. This is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear. You are not here to save anyone who refuses to meet their own soul. You are here to guard the light within you so that you don't become soulless in the process of trying to wake someone else up. If this message resonated with you, if you've ever felt the weight of being around someone who drains your soul, take a moment to subscribe. This channel is a space for deep reflection, real healing, and the kind of wisdom that doesn't fit into surface conversations. Have you ever recognized one of these signs in someone close to you? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might help someone else feel less alone and more understood. Let's build a community where the soul is honored, not silenced.